All right, hi everybody. I'm looking at displaying categorical data, Unit 1, Lesson 2. And some students I think are struggling with some of the skills of how to upload files and this kind of thing to these Google Forms. So I just wanted to provide a video here where we're going to do that. So when I when I create these lessons, I create the learning targets. Learning targets up here every time, right? So here are the learning targets. Here's some vocab. Here's the standards we're using. I'm going to ask you your name. This helps me identify you quicker. This Google form will take your email address, but it's a little easier for me to see what your name is if you put it in here. What are the learning targets? So I'm going to ask you what your learning targets are on especially day one. I'm just going to want you to copy and paste these. So what you do here is just select those, right, like that, and you'll do Control C to copy that, and you'll select, you just Control V to paste those in. And that just helps me know for sure that you've definitely at least glanced at these learning targets, right? All right, so here is this is a relative frequency table we have right here. So for this one, it's a current population survey conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau, collecting data on the highest educational level achieved by U.S. 25 to 34-year-olds in 2014. All right. So this table kind of summarizes the data. It does it in percent. So if I read this and say, okay, 13.2% of people surveyed had less than a high school education. But sometimes we're going to need to take these tables like this and we're going to need to put them in the form of a graph, because a graph, when we have data in a graph form, we can visualize it so much better. We can see the data better. So the two graphs we're going to be talking about in this lesson are bar charts and pie charts. Sorry, I got this little bug flying around in the air. Okay, here's the bar chart. So we took this data right here from this table and we turned it into a bar chart, and see how much easier it is to see what's going on when we have it in a graph. I can see that, okay, less than high school is between 10 and 15. High school graduates between 20 and 25% had high school or high school graduates. About between 25 and 30% had some college. I can see the patterns here so much nicer when it's in a graph. Here's an example of a pie chart. It's the same data, it's just now in a pie chart, right? And because this is all in percentages, this I can see very quickly is, okay, some college is the biggest, bachelor's degree is probably second, followed by high school graduate third, and the least is advanced degree. Very easy for me just to see the pie chart, and I can visualize, I can see which ones are bigger and smaller relative to each other. So I'm going to give you instructions now on how to make a pie chart, because this for day one, we actually made our bar charts by hand. All right. Step one is to draw and label the axes. Number two is scale the axes. And number three is draw the bars above the category names. So here's the frequency table. We're going to do a bar chart based on this right here. I'm going to show you how to do this. All right. So there was a survey of 40 students asked, would you rather be famous, happy, healthy, or rich? 7 students, the frequency 7 tells me 7 students or 7 respondents said they'd rather be famous. 21 said they'd rather be happy. 4 said they'd be healthy. 8 said they'd rather be rich. All right, 40 total students. And here's the steps on how to create a bar chart for this data. Step number 1, we draw and label the axes, right? You create this little L shape. You put the number that you want to display on the y-axis. You put the variable name that you care about as down here on the x-axis, right? The horizontal preferred status, all right? So we're going to draw and label the axes. That's step 1. Step 2, scale the axes, right? We're going to scale it. So we have to go back to our data table and look at what's our biggest number here. What's our biggest number? That's 21. You're not going to use 40. That's the total. You're going to use 21 as the biggest number. So your scale needs to include 21. So we want a reasonable number to scale this by that would include the number 21. So I could have chose 30. I could have chose 25. In this diagram, we chose 25. All right. And then we chose 25 as like the top, right? And then we said, okay, what do we want to go by? What units do we want to go by? Well, 25 breaks up nicely into by fives. I can count by fives to get 25 easily. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. If I had chosen 30, maybe I would go by fives, or maybe I'd go by tens. But this is why you choose a nice round even number where you can have a nice unit, right? So we chose 25, so we went by fives. We just chose the unit fives as kind of an arbitrary thing. We could have chosen twos, but it's not as handy, right? Fives allows me to put the numbers in nicer. So in a sense, this is arbitrary, but you want to have the best fit. So this is what you're thinking about. How do I best fit the data in the size of my graph? And then once you've got this scaled, with your units and you have it where it will fit all your data, you want to put your categories down here, right? Famous, happy, healthy, rich. Our bar is going to be drawn in next. That's so step 2 is scale the axes and label your x-axes as well. All right. And step 3 is draw those bars in, right? Look back at that data table, draw those bars in, and now we can see, oh yeah, famous is between 5 and 10, happy is the most, happy is the biggest, healthy was the smallest. Suddenly, when we graph this, the data, the numbers jump out at us, right? We can visually see. So sometimes we're going to ask you to describe a chart. Describe a chart. So when I would, if I was asked, how do you describe this chart? I would say, well, clearly happy was the most preferred status. Happy had the highest frequency in terms of preferred status. Famous and rich were fairly similar to each other, and healthy was the least popular. So that's just 3 sentences how I would describe this. I would look at my highest, I'd look at my lowest, I'd look at some things that are the same, and I would try to just use some sentences to describe that chart. So this is where I was going to ask you to try this, right? I was going to ask you to draw a bar chart of this right here. So I already have a video out there that shows you how I did this. So go look at the video that's right here for making bar charts to know how I made this bar chart. But I want to show you how to now upload it after you've made it, right? So first step, I need to take a picture with my device. So right now, I'm going to take a picture with my document camera. All right, there's my document camera. I'm going to take a picture of this graph. All right, maybe get my finger. I don't care if my finger's in the way. That's all right. I'm going to keep that. All right, so yeah, there's my camera roll. I am then going to, after I've taken that picture, it's probably my downloads is my guess, or maybe it's in my pictures in my camera roll. But I'm going to add file. I'm going to add file. I'm going to select files from my device because I know it's on my device somewhere. I'm hoping it's in my downloads. Apparently no. Apparently no. So I'm going to say here it's in my camera roll. All right. So somewhere in here, there it is. In my camera roll. There's my file. I'm going to upload it. I clicked upload to upload it, and boom, it goes right in there, right? I can click on it now, and I can actually look at it in Drive. All right, I can see my picture. It's coming. It's loading. It takes a second. Oh, geez. I'm impatient. There it is. There's me and my thumb on the graph and everything. All right. So that's my picture. I've uploaded it here. It's good to go. If I want to describe what I saw on my bar chart, I would say, other. Other is the most popular category, and Android and iPhone were fairly similar at about 500, a frequency of 500. But definitely other was the most popular phone. This data is from 2014, so you can, smartphones hadn't quite caught on yet. People were still using their dumb phones, right? So this is what I'd write in here. I'd write other was the most popular category, right? Other was the most popular category. iPhone and Android were fairly similar. So then this question here asks, explain why the famous slice makes up 17.5% of the graph. So here is famous, 17.5%. Why is it that famous is 17.5%? Well, to calculate a percentage, remember, you're going to use this part divided by whole times 100. All right, so the frequency of famous was 7. The frequency of famous was 7. The whole, the total was 40. So if I put 7 divided by 40 in my calculator and I multiply it by 100, let's see what I get. 7 divided by 40 first. All right, that gives me 1.75. Notice that that's fairly interesting pattern compared to 17.5. I multiply by 100 and I get the 17.5. Notice how that decimal just went over 2 places. So 17.5% is the reason why the famous slice makes up 17.5% of this graph. It's because part divided by whole times 100 gives you the total, right? Okay. Remember with video, you can pause me at any time. if you need something. And then I was going to have you do this graph right here, right? This is the frequency of babies born on a particular week, I think in 2014. It was all the babies born in a single week in the United States, all right? So on Sunday, there were 7,374 babies born. On Monday, there were 11,704 babies born, all right? So you were going to hand draw a graph on how to do this. Now, I don't have a video on how to do this particular graph, but I wanted to see your own graph. If it's not good, if you goof it up, that's okay. I want to see your best work at this point. Making mistakes in math is a good thing. It's a learning experience. So let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to my camera. I want to get back to I want to take a picture again. So I've got mine hand drawn here. This was my version of this. Remember, it ain't pretty. It ain't pretty, but it is what it is. I'm going to take a picture of that. All right, I'm now going to add file. All right, click add file. Now I've got a picture of my hand-drawn graph. I'm going to select files from my device. Select files from my device. And somewhere over here is going to be my picture of my graph, right? There it is, uploaded. Whoop. Okay, so there's my file uploaded. And there's a video on how to do the bar graphs, especially that first one. Here's a video on how to receive your individual feedback on Google Forms. After I grade these at the end of the day, I send you an email with your individual feedback. And remember, you have to click a submit button to save your work. This video will teach you how to save your work. I'm going to review it right now. There's a question that says, time to save your responses. Do you want to save your responses before moving on to the next section? Yes, you do. You want to click that. Oops. You want to click next. I want to get that out of the way. I want to click next. And it'll give me the submit button next, right? I want to click submit to save those answers. Click submit to save those answers. All right. That's how we do it. That's how it's done. And then I get the very satisfying, your response has been recorded. So I'm good to go. All right. That's day one of this lesson on how to get it done. Oh, this is Mr. Salt, and I hope to see you in class. I'm working on a tagline.